Good morning. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday season. I'm going to try to get one turn in before New Year's Eve, and then things will return to a much more normal schedule for me. I'm looking at February 15th, 1942, and my opponent has continued his campaign in the South. In an unsurprising move, he has mopped up the two brigades that he isolated east of Tuapse. He has not furthered up any attacks in the Caucasus Mountain Range. I'm very curious which direction he goes here, because a lot of those troops that were in the Tuapse assault are either going to go towards Grozny or into modern-day Georgia. So this gives me at least a week to prepare for what decisions he makes. Moving northward, Finnish and Axis forces have completed their conquest of the hills. This fully threatens my river line, so all the fortifications that I have put up and built in are now at risk of being isolated. To further emphasize this point, he's used his motorized divisions to punch through near my supply depot in the plains. This will force me to make decisions on what to do with this entire front here. Moving up to the issue that the southern front is facing. Axis forces have advanced into the terrain that I seceded last week, while at the same time striking at the northwestern edge of the front itself. This does open up opportunities for me to use some of the southwestern front in a manner to slow this advance down. I just have to be careful not to stretch myself too thin. But all in all, the combat here has just continued to progress on the same trends that he's been doing for the last several weeks. Everything from Tambov to Rezhev appears to be quiet, so I assume he's just waiting for spring in that area, building up his combat prep and getting his panzer divisions ready. Thankfully, the weather report's telling me that spring is not coming anytime soon. Now, switching gears is something I'm starting to wrap my mind around. This production screen's been one of my favorite screens to look at, and I've had an issue with making decisions based off of it, though. Specifically when digging into the ground elements that are being built. I did not know about the active pull button, oversight on my part, but it is good to see that the light artillery is now sitting at 0, which means they're finally reaching units that are begging to get this equipment instead of sitting in warehouses. What I still need to figure out is what units actually use this heavy anti-tank gun, and also, if I'm getting British tanks, then I might as well start creating units that actually use them instead of just collecting 170 of them back into these same warehouses. But it is concepts like this that I've been missing for the 10 months of this war so far. I've looked at this screen thinking it was just my losses in battle that was killing me, not realizing that I had more control of this than I originally thought. Spending the first few months of the war just building rifle divisions just overwhelmed everything and grounded my entire concept of an army to a halt, while at the same time, obviously, I was losing massive amounts of units in battles and isolated pockets and whatnot. So in hindsight, I see a lot of the mistakes I made wrong, but if I can rectify that now, I'm going to focus on these concepts moving forward. But for now, we'll start with what I actually did in the air. I'm still trying to maintain some semblance of the Black Sea. He doesn't really bring much up to prevent me from doing this. I don't really see a reason for him to, being that I only have 3 ports left in my control. Bombing here in the center is just mostly to try to slow him down. It doesn't really seem to accomplish too much. Other than that, it's just a reconnaissance mission. Of which I do notice what I already knew, which was that he had men along the line there, but it doesn't tell me what. So I don't know exactly how reconnaissance works to get accurate information, but that's something I'll have to learn later. But other than that, we're looking at a total of 140 lost aircraft, 26 damaged. I'm okay with that. The only successful bombing attack took out 43 Germans with 2 guns. Come to expect this when it comes to fighting in blizzard conditions with this wonderful Soviet Air Force. I've also come to expect the wonderful joys of Stavka. So in the Valdai Hills here, all these dark green units were under the 32nd Army. It was a quiet point on the front, but greater thoughts and beings decided to send that army to the northern front up into Finland. Therefore, I now have to find a new headquarters. Didn't really want to devote too much energy to it, so for now I just switched it over to the 2nd Reserve Army. In the future, before his offensive gets open up here, I need to find a more long-term solution. The other decision I have to make on this turn is what to do with my administrative points. And being that he continues to pressure here south of Stalingrad, I have decided to take the 45th Army and replace him with a new leader that's better prepared for this situation. This does use the last of my administrative points, so this will delay the forming of the separate tank brigades that utilize the British equipment, at least for another week. I'm also running out of time with the March deadline looming for the formation of Rifle Guards divisions. And from reading the manual, I can take 3 of these airbornes to form them. I've honestly never formed a Rifles Guard division, so it's just uncharted terrain for me. Problem is, I've noticed that the majority of them have a withdrawal date, which makes them not eligible for this action. So I've decided, for better or worse, I'm going to send them to the Trans-Caucasus Front to try to get that into the green, and hopefully maybe I push it up over the top to where I can bring something out of there that I can utilize on the map. It was either that or I still send them to the map and then just put them inside of various infantry divisions to strengthen them. So I chose the former. I'm not 100% it was the right choice, but I guess I'm just going to have to learn that as I get more and more experienced with this game. So when everything's all said and done, this leaves me with 6 airborne brigades in the reserve box, which should give me 2 Rifle Guards divisions. I do have the choice, so I could use administrative points to start building more of them. I think they're 2 each, so I might end up doing that as we get into March. Focusing back on the artillery regiments and brigades sitting in the reserve theater box. By leaving the majority of them undepleted and only picking a handful on refit, finally starting to see some fruit of my labor, getting some of these to actually reach 100% TOE. So I will now be bringing hopefully 10 to 15 of them to the map every single week until I really push through all of this, and then maybe I'll decide to build more. I gotta keep an eye on how these pulls remain moving forward. Focusing back onto the map. To keep them honest here near Riask, I try to hit them where I have almost 4-to-1 odds. I'm assuming it's leader is the problem here. I mean, I don't think Kozin's that bad, but either way, he is able to hold. I dug into some of the statistics of the battle. I didn't really see what disrupted it. I'm assuming it's the howitzer battalion that he has, because I don't know, 109s I don't think are doing it. In the south, though, the main threat that I'm going to be facing this upcoming week is his push towards Grozny. I decide basically to retreat the 4 or 5 hexes that I've been normally doing. I wanted to keep some of the mountain ranges to the far south intact. I don't know how this is going to play out when it comes time for me to start really swinging eastward. But I do have a couple other divisions that have been refitting at the depot there and near the center of the screen, and also coming off the rail lines farther to the east, Grozny itself. But this puts me into a position where he will still attack me next week, but hopefully it won't do that much damage, and also saves me from getting units further isolated, at least in theory. So I'm going to have to find that out when I get this back, which ironically I already do have, I just haven't looked at yet. So without further ado, the image, as usual, that I faced when my turn began changes a bit drastically. We do make a small gap west of Stalingrad. I'm hoping that he doesn't have the reconnaissance there to take advantage of it, and that I brought enough units of stronger caliber down to slow him down there. In the far south, though, he is just straight pushing me back, but that's to come expected. It was pretty clear and obvious when we first started this turn, so I don't see how that's going to change anytime soon.